We return to Bosque Redondo not to revisit history, but to sit with what remains. This land still holds the memory of survival, loss, and resilience, and in its silence, the story continues.
The strings soften, creating space for the flute's airy, inquisitive melody. Light harvest dance in the background. Oh, oh, ooh, ooh, ooh. Rum gently joins in, adding warmth and depth. The strings soften, creating space for the flute's early, inquisitive melody. Light harp stains in the breath.
Well, it's important to have places like this because we don't need to lose our history. And we need to be truthful about our history. History truly cannot be altered. You can have a different opinion of history, but history cannot be altered. I was going through a booklet that we leave here. We leave some booklets here in the decompression room for natives or just visitors to write in. And the reflection after they go through the exhibition, and just a couple of them that I thought was really good. And the first one just says very plainly what this place is. It says, "This is a wonderful, brutal, sad, and awesome place." And then another, just a few months ago, wrote, "I was passing through, heading home to Indian Wells, Arizona, in the beautiful Navajo country. I was excited to stop here and to see what it was about. I got to the gate and an instant sadness and anger emotions came over me. I sat in my car and was going to just leave, but I saw that the ranger was opening the gates. So I entered. Very somber experience walking through. I shook my head and I shed tears. I now appreciate my home, family, elders, and a lot more. It humbled me to the core. My hope is for our children to take in some of this history and show interest in the revitalization of our language and our culture."
Indian men of that tribe are to be killed whenever and wherever you can find them. The women and children will not be harmed, but you will take them prisoners. Tell them that now our hands are untied, and you have been sent to punish them for their treachery and their crimes. That you have no power to make peace. That you are there to kill them whenever you find them. General James H. Carlton.
The Pecos River ran heavy and slow. The trees bent under the weight of the wind. If you stand there now, you can almost feel it. The prayers rising, the wind carrying voices from another time. It's as if the tierra herself remembers, refusing to let the story fade. Spending time at Bosque Redondo, it is true, you feel the souls of the people who were housed there. You feel the desperation, and you also sense the hope.
That land is only capable of supporting a handful of people But to put thousands of people there and expect them to survive that's impossible, you know. And when you go to Fort Sumner today, I mean, you just see it's a lush place. There's trees and agriculture. There's technology to bring in water. There's technology to add fertilizer to the crops, but you know, all the trees and all the vegetation were used, every bit of it, for firewood, for building shelters. And I mean, that place was decimated.
He directed Colonel Kit Carson to shoot any man on sight. He went after the Mescalero Apache tribe first, shoot any man on sight, and then those women and children would be then gathered up and taken to the Bosque Redondo. And just kind of stepping back for a moment, why was this area chosen? You know, he had gone on 2 different reconnaissance missions in this area, and he said, wow, this is an oasis in the desert. It's right next to a river, which is the Pecos River, and it's going to be good for irrigation purposes and for farming, teach the people a trade. And when he sent his board of officers here in 1862, the board of officers wrote back to the general in command and said, this would not be a good place for a fort. It's prone to flooding because it's so close to the river. The water is not good. It's very alkaline and very salty. There's no rock from mortar. It's not serviceable by any other fort in this area. So it's very difficult to support in case the people needed support, such as goods or anything else that would be serviced by wagon train.
Make a note of this. You will send me a weekly report in detail of the operations of your command. Let me know all about the crops destroyed, their extent and location, all about the stock captured, when, where, by whom, and the kind and number, all about the Navajos killed, and the exact number of captured women and children.
The Navajo were made to walk over 300 miles to reach the Bosque Redondo. Many died along the way. Kit Carson is known for his scorched earth tactics. And so the killing of any stragglers, that would include elderly, children, pregnant women who couldn't keep up with the long walk. And in their actual ancestral lands, poisoning water sources, destroying food, crops, livestock, on and on.
They made them build their own confinement, brick by brick. Men modeled adobes from the same mud that cracked beneath their feet. Women planted seeds in tierra muerta, hoping something, anything, would grow. The government promised rations and tools, but hunger ruled every day. Disease crept through the camp. The sky was open, but their world had shrunk to dust and sorrow.
And whenever somebody in their tribe had passed away, we're told stories of the soldiers, the cavalry, throwing their bodies into the river. And the Mescaleros had saw that for themselves, and they knew that if they would drink the water from the river, the Pecos River, that they would get sick.
Now, looking over to the north is where the primary buildings were. And when you look over to where the flagpole is, the flagpole actually marks the geographic center of not only the fort, but the reservation itself. So if you were standing next to the flagpole, it was 20 miles in any direction that you looked.
So this would have been drastically different. So the encampments would have been several miles distant from here. This would have been, we would actually be in the middle of one of the barracks buildings right now. So if you look behind or in front of me, there's a reconstruction or a partial reconstruction over the foundations of one building, and that same style of building would have been replicated clear across that irrigation ditch. So the fort would have continued over in that direction. Then on this opposite side of me, there would have been buildings all through there. What happened is around the turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, there was a series of floods. Some of the floods were so bad that even the cemetery that's known for where Billy the Kid was buried, but it was the Fort Cemetery when this was a fort, that was under 4 feet of water. And when that happened, the river actually rerouted. So now it cuts through part of where the fort used to be. And if you go over there, you can see where the landscape just suddenly kind of gets worn off because it eroded that part of the area away. So it's definitely a very different landscape than what would have been at the time.
The landscape around Fort Sumner still hums with that memory. The plains stretch wide under a pale blue cielo. The mesquite rustles like whispers from the past. When the sun sets, it paints the sky red, like the name itself, Bosque Redondo, as if the earth remembers every tear and every heartbeat that once fell here.
According to the archives, when someone died during the marches, they were essentially buried by the side of the road in an unmarked grave. Sometimes, though, people were just left in the elements, exposed, especially in the middle of the winter when they could not dig in the hard ground. Bodies were just left out. When the people were here at the Bosque Redondo Indian Reservation, the fort was right in the middle of this 40-mile square reservation, and people lived about anywhere from 1 to 3 miles from the fort, because the fort was the place where people received their supplies or rations for the day. So when people would die, people were essentially taken away from their encampments and then buried in an unmarked grave. You know, one of the common questions that we often are asked is, how many people died as a result of what happened here? And it's estimated that around 3,000 people died as a result of the roundups, the marches, and the conditions that they had to survive while they were here.
From 1864 until 1868, this place was literally the Navajo Nation. During that time, for me personally, I can't imagine what my ancestral people went through just to get here in of itself. The various routes and the various treks that they had to go through to get here, and those who survived arrived here. And in a way, this was our final solution. And the story of this place echoes their pain. It echoes that unfortunate part of a story that I'm very grateful to the memorial that they're telling. This place, over 155 years ago, was very desolate. It was anything but what it is today. And even getting here today takes a while, by road, by car. And can't imagine how, back in the 1860s, how long it took individuals to get here, even on horseback, even by wagon. It took a while.
For the Diné and Inde, Bosque Redondo became a wound and a promise. From ashes they rebuilt. They carried their languages, their prayers, their identity, refusing to be erased. Out of captivity came conocimiento, wisdom born from hardship. They taught the world that true freedom is something you keep alive inside, even when the body is confined.
It was a time when Americans were moving west and were colonizing the West, and all the native people that were in the way were removed or forced to live a different lifestyle than what we've always known.
Their weapons taken away, stuck in one area, and being forced to work as laborers and farmers. That was very alien to them. And we actually have a lot of quotes of recorded conversations where the leaders are talking to officers here at the fort, and they say explicitly how this is so different from their traditional way of life, and how they're a free people, that this doesn't feel right to them. And you know, obviously, that how did they deal with this? They dealt with this by eventually escaping.
So the night of November 3rd, 1865, under a full moon, the Navajo actually may have actually aided in the Mescaleros' escape, but according to the archives, the Mescaleros stole 200 horses from the Navajo corrals and made this daring escape in the middle of the night. 9 people remained on the reservation and kept the campfires burning through the night. So they left all their personal possessions. So by the time the military came the next morning, all of their teepees and personal possessions were still here, but no one else was. And it created such chaos that these 9 people who still remained here funneled out in the days to come.
Upon entering this world, the holy people gave us tools. They gave us teachings of those tools, of how to live in harmony in this world. One of the tools is the crystal. A lot of our traditional people have and use what we call tsagat dindini. We use it in prayers, in our observances. The other item I have is, for many, may be a simple piece of wood burnt at the end. But in our way, we call this honishgish. This is a fire cane. And without question, this fire cane witnessed the signing of our treaty. This fire cane was there during some of those painful and difficult moments in our history. In the Christian tradition, and as well as the Hebrew tradition, there is Psalm 23, which speaks of, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, thy rod and thy staff, thy comfort. For our Navajo people, this is our rod and our staff. And without question, it comforted us during this very difficult period when we were at Bosque Redondo.
I was born with a cottonwood lean to the stream, where the Pecos runs low in the New Mexico heat. But the old folks would whisper when the fire burned down about a long dusty road and a fenced-in ground. They said, listen close when the night wind moans. That ain't just the wind, that's Bosque Redondo. Bosque Redondo. Hear the ground still cry, footsteps in the sand. Though the years roll by, they walk them in a hungry, they fenced them in slow. But the land remembers what the orders don't know. Yeah, the river kept running, the stars stay strong. You can't bury the truth at Bosque Redondo. Yeah, 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 yeah. Soldiers in blue with the sun in their eyes, paper orders heavy as the desert sky. Women held babies, men stared straight ahead. Every mile behind them was a prayer, they said. Some didn't make it, some did somehow. The earth kept count, even when men wouldn't count. Bosque Redondo, Bosque Redondo, Bosque Redondo. Yeah, the ground still cries. Broken moccasin, wagon ruts side by side. They called it peace, they called it control, but you can't fence a song out of somebody's soul. Yeah, the river kept running, the stars stay strong. You can't bury the truth at Bosque Redondo. Sickness took lives, names turned to numbers, whole paper thin. But songs stayed alive in the dark back then. Grandmothers hummed them real low and slow, so the guards couldn't hear what the children would know. Bosque Redondo, hear the ground still cry. Every fence post knows it was built on a lie. They try to make ghosts out of flesh and bone, but the people stayed people, not stone. Yeah, the river kept running, the stars stay strong. You can't bury the truth at Bosque Redondo. They can burn the fields, they can tear down homes, they can sign their names like God. But God's got a memory longer than a white man's law. Our songs outlive men who think they're in charge. At Bosque Redondo, I said at Bosque Redondo. Oh, one day the gates shook, one day they broke. People walk back home with a hard-won hope. Carry scars like maps in their hands, and eyes carry stories no water could silence or buy. Now the cottonwood still bend to the stream, still tell the truth about what freedom means. Bosque Redondo, Bosque Redondo. Hear the ground still cry, but it also knows how the people survive. They walk back stronger than chains and wrongs. Still here, still singing, still carrying on. Yeah, the river kept running, the stars stay strong. You can't bury the truth. No, you can't bury the truth. under the desert sky so wide. You dance like the wind with nothing to hide. The scent of sagebrush fills the air. Mi corazón beats 'cause you're there. Mi New Mexico amor, you're my star. You shine so bright wherever you are. From Santa